everyone. How you doing? Excellent. My name is Emily Barker, and this is Lucas Drinkwater. What are all your names? No, just kidding. We'll do that after. So we're going to start with a song from my latest record, which is called A Dark Murmuration of Words. And the title of that record comes from this very song. And it feels really nice to perform it in a bookshop, because when I came up with that lyric, A Dark Murmuration of Words, I sort of had this image in my mind of books taking flight full of all their words and migrating between countries. So there you go. This is geography. Be my view looking back, red earth, deep red-tailed black, first landscapes and loves, clear blue skies above, calling me down that gravel track, eucalypts after rain, remind me who I'm again. On petrichor nights, my memories alight, where more than we ever could explain. Tidal questions at my feet. Home is where the hard lines meet, not in distance of the seas, nor geography. Could I grab a bit more guitar, please? Say hello to the spring. What will this time you bring? An old self to shed, a new mouth to be fed. Write me an answer I can sing. Tidal questions at my feet. Home is where the hard lines meet, not in distance of the seas, nor geography. Down every dune of your shoreline, I move with the migratory birds. Me and my shadows in a flight path rhyme, a dark murmuration of words. Thank you very much. So we were reading the program yesterday as we were watching Geordie Lane, which was an amazing set. I don't know if anyone else caught Geordie Lane, and read the bit of blurb about our show today at this beautiful bookshop, and realised that when I needed to throw together something about film and television. I hadn't quite got the brief somehow. Anyway, so we're going to be flying by the seat of our pants here a bit, and I'll be chatting a bit about the work that I've written for film and television. But I also thought at the end, if this is a subject that anyone is particularly interested in, then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for anyone who wants to ask any questions. Does that sound good? Okay, cool.
And if no one's got any questions, then I'm going to assume the role of Jonathan Ross. We can sit in these chairs and I can ask Emily some very deep and thought-out questions about composing music for film and television.
That would be good. I think we should definitely take question time in the seats, no matter what happens. Okay, because those are too special to miss out on. I have written some music for film and TV, and it all started with this song of mine being used for a drama series, a BBC One drama series starring Kenneth Branagh called Wallander, based on the books by Henning Mankell. And I got this call. I'd done a house party in North London, and 2 days later had got a call from this composer called Martin Phipps, and he was writing all the music for this TV series. And he asked me if I'd be up for coming down to his studio and sort of doing a new version of Nostalgia, my song, because, as you're about to hear, the original is very much set in Melbourne, and the series, has anyone watched Wallander? Yeah, is obviously in Sweden. So that wasn't going to work. So anyway, we'll start the film and TV sort of journey. This is because it's where I started with this song Nostalgia, which ended up becoming the theme tune to the whole of the series. Despite me not knowing who Kenneth Branagh was or Wallander or anything like that, but I knew that it was a good thing that I should say yes to. So this is original version, Nostalgia. Tramwires cross Melbourne skies, cut my red heart in two. My knuckles bleed down Johnson Street on a door that shouldn't be in front of me. 12,000 miles away from your smile. I'm 12,000 miles away from me, standing on the corner of Brunswick. Got the rain coming down and mascara on my cheek. Oh, whisper me words in the shape of a babe. Shelter my love from the wind and the waves. Crow fly, be my alibi, and return this fable on your wing. Take it far away to where gypsies play beneath metal stars by the bridge. Oh, write me a beacon so I know the way. Guide my love through night and through day. Only the sunset knows my blind desire for the fleeting. Oh,
Don't be afraid to come and use the sofas at the front, by the way.
They look
quite a
super
low
comfy.
spit act, actually, compared to some of Emily's previous punk bands and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to stage dive this morning. So that's where doing music for film and television started for me, and that was in about 2008. And I went to Martin's studio, and some great things that I learnt during that session were that we experimented with the song, and so right now it's in E flat. So we played around with the key quite a lot, and we also, rather than it being on guitar, it ended up being on piano. So we tried out the motif, that part, on various instruments, and the brief was sort of to make the track slightly less folky, because the original version has accordion and cello and violin, and acoustic guitar obviously too. So that was something that I learnt in that my first session, sort of working with film and television, collaborating with Martin Phipps, and that was a good one for later on, which I'll get to in a bit, further work that I've done. But I thought now maybe we might break away from that subject for a second and do The Woman Who Planted Trees. Should we do that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. I'm glad you agree.
I'm up for playing anything.
So this is one. Lots of my songs come from wonderful stories that I find, often based on women, in fact. And the last record, A Dark Murmuration of Words, explores lots of the sort of emotional response to climate crisis. So it explores grief and guilt and loss, as well as hope. And that was a really important one to maintain whilst thinking about all of that, as we all continue to do. And this one, I found hope through a story of an amazing woman called Wangari Maathai. And in 1977, she started the Green Belt movement in Kenya, because the government at the time had bought up tracts of land, of national forest, and was selling it off to their friends who were clear felling it all, and the topsoils were washing into the water, and Wangari's community weren't able to grow their food so well. And she was a biologist, and she started planting trees and teaching all the women in her community forestry skills, and it's still going today, and over 55 million trees have been planted, which is incredible. And for me, it was this beautiful story of how we can focus on such a local level, on something that's within our grasp, and how from that it can just spread out to have such positive ripples throughout the world. So this is for her, and it's actually, the story is from the perspective of her daughter, because I saw a short documentary about Wanjira, her name was, walking through this forest that her mum and the generations of her mother's community had all planted. And I was really struck by this idea of how we can measure time through the growth of trees. I don't know if you have ever seen trees grow from small to large, and so that's sort of where I was when I was writing this song, and it's called The Woman Who Planted Trees. I can tell my age by the height of trees, by the years they've stood growing over me. When I was a girl, you planted seeds and cast your love forever over me. When the land was dry, no food to eat, when the soil was sick and the river weak. You took a spade, bare hands, bare feet, and sowed your love roots down deep in the cool dark shade. Leaves sing your name, wild green tongues glisten in the glade. Your branches warp, my fingers weft. Weave me through this gift you left. From a prison cell you dreamt of trees, blood, dried blood upon your cheek. You didn't know around the world people listened, people learned. What a return, soil healed, hope restored with every yield. Trees grew high, bones grew strong, enough for everyone. In the cool dark shade, leaves sing your name, wild green tongues glisten in the glade. Your branches warp, my fingers weft. Weave me through this gift you I can tell my age by the height of trees, by the years they've stood growing over me.
Maybe. What's that? They sounded good. All right, let's do Anywhere Away.
So back to film and TV. So the first thing was nostalgia, and then I made a new record after that called Almanac, and I sent a copy to Martin Phipps, who'd become a friend, and he's a BAFTA, Ivor Novello, every award that exists for composition, he has won, and he's a very generous and lovely person, and sort of took me under his wing and mentored me somewhat, which was a real privilege. And so I sent him this CD, Almanac, and it just so happened he was working on another crime thriller, the music for, and the director, a fella called Hugo Blick, really wanted to have as the theme tune. Has everyone seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Or anyone? And the sirens moment in the lake, and they sing, when I went down to the river to pray, studying about. Anyway, the director had this in his mind that he wanted these female harmonies, and on this album of mine, Almanac, there happens to be a song called Pause that has 4 female vocals and the pipe organ from the Royal, which hall is it in London? It's at South Bank. It's not Albert Hall. Festival Hall, thank you. Lucas, drink water. The Royal Festival Hall and an electric guitar. It's very atmospheric, and Martin put it on the record and went, oh my goodness, I think this is spot on. So then another song was used. Actually, we should probably do that song, given I'm accident.
This is the wrong introduction for the song that we're about to do.
Yeah, so
Let's do that one.
Well, we'll just follow my banter.
Or you can do a mix and match. We do random introductions for songs, then you have to piece them together in your own mind after. It's
okay, we'll go chronologically because that seems to be how I'm talking. So this is a song called Pause, and it was on this record almanac that I sent to Martin, and the director loved it, and Martin did a sort of a newer production of it. And that's what in the industry you call a synchronization. So those two songs weren't songs that I'd written specifically for film or television. This is they're called synchronizations. There we go.
What are they called?
Syncs.
Okay.
Yeah. SYNCS.
SYNCS.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the kitchen variety. Okay, I've done this one for years. Hopefully, we'll see.
I think last time we played this was with a church organ in Germany.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyone got a church organ?
Yeah. Am I now without your love? Who am I alone in a day that has gone without your love to return upon? I may featherless bird in a sky so absurd. Why your eyes? There's so much movement when all I long for is to lay down in love's pause and dream. I know something of truth. Oh, hide me deeper in your peace further and lose me in this greed I found in your Thank you. I realised I forgot to tell you what show that was used in. It was one called The Shadow Line. I'm not sure if it made it to Australia or not. It did? Ooh, it was thrilling. A little bit scary, but brilliant. My mum, it wasn't quite my mum's thing, but my dad really enjoyed it. He's into crime thrillers. Let's go for started waffling.
So if you can just transplant the intro from before to this next one,
No.
save the repetition.
No, I won't repeat myself again. So next up, what happened? I worked on a film with Martin called The Keeping Room, starring Hayley Steinfeld and Britt Marling, and Britt was one of the producers. It's a brilliant film. It was by Daniel Barber, who did Brighton Rock, and set in the USA during the Civil War. Brilliant film. But anyway, I'm rambling on about the wrong introduction again now, I realise. Anyway, it was a great experience working with him, and I wrote quite a few songs for that feature film, as well as wrote some instrumental music in collaboration with many musicians. It was sort of like quite a jam almost, and directed by Martin Phipps, and we were all in the room recording everything that we did, and then he took that away and edited it up, and various bits made it to the film. Great film, The Keeping Room. And then I was doing a radio show in London, BBC 2, with Dermot O'Leary, and he had called me in to do my 2 crime thriller theme tunes, Nostalgia and Pause, which we've played. And he asked me after we'd done those, so would you like to write more for film and television? And I said, oh, absolutely. And listening was a fella called Jake Gavin, and he tracked me down and asked me if I would read his first film script, and if I liked it, would I be up for potentially writing all the music. So this was my first full feature film job on my own. And I read the script, and I absolutely loved it, and wrote this song that we're going to play for you now, straight away. It's called Anywhere Away, and it's sort of the song that became I felt was the protagonist's theme tune. It covered sort of a lot of his moods, I felt. The film is called Hector. It took such a long time to get it in action. That was a learning curve in itself, just trying to understand the pace of the music industry. And he got funding and then lost funding and then got funding and then lost it. And anyway, it was about a 4-year thing. But I started out by writing 3 songs, because the idea of just writing loads of music, not yet to screen, was quite overwhelming. And I thought, I know how to write songs. I'm going to start with that. So I wrote 3 songs, and this is the first of them, which I sent to him, and he loved. And then from this one, I took little motifs, and as mentioned earlier, that first session with Martin Phipps, where we put the motifs in different keys and on different instruments, I experimented with that. So before they even started filming, he had this huge file full of all these bits and pieces of music that I'd written, and they ended up actually acting to a lot of this music to help them get into the mindset. So this is Anywhere Away from a film called Hector, starring Peter Mullen.
And despite all of those experimentations with different keys, we are now going to play this in the very user-unfriendly key of D flat.
Thanks. Sorry about that. It's what Peter Mullen wanted, or Hector rather. How does it go? Nowhere to you is anywhere to me, and anywhere away is where I wanna be. I watch the clouds change, the skies are wild with rain. I would leave you here if only you would stay. I hold on to nothing now. You're everything to me. Anywhere away is where I wanna be. I live on the path between somewhere and somebody. Anywhere away is where I wanna be. changes, still you're all I see. I broke waves against the shore, I broke bottles at your door. I would leave you here if only you would stay. I hold on to nothing now. You're everything to me. Anywhere away is where I wanna be. I live on the path between somewhere and somebody. Anywhere away is where I wanna be. You're everything to me. Anywhere away is where I wanna be. I live on the path between somewhere and somebody. Anywhere away is where I wanna be. Anywhere away is where I wanna be. Anywhere away is where I wanna be.
Disappear.
That film, by the way, was on Netflix for quite a while. It might still be. So if you're interested to hear all of Emily's whole feature film composition for that, the film's called Hector.
Thanks.
And this is one I wrote. So I'm also very inspired by books, and this one I wrote after reading Tim Winton's Dirt Music. If a picture paints 1,000 words and a song paints 1,000 pictures, and if these seas could sing when the waves came in, a shoal of secrets wash upon the shore. I'm the plummet and the rise of the bays mooring buoys. I'm the powdery sand dunes white. I'm the omen of bad luck, and I curse all I touch with my past and won't pass away quickly enough. But I've learned how to disappear without going anywhere. Oh, I've learned how to disappear without going anywhere. One spring I slipped overboard without saying a word, and I floundered down through the water like an anchor. I went to a dark address where I finally confessed, though we went our different ways, we had come to the same end. And this is how you disappear without ever leaving. Oh, this is how you disappear without ever leaving. suddenly calls, and it's pointing to the north, beckoning that I follow. Am I the singer or the song? Have I faith or have I not? Love's the fear now that I must swallow. Oh, and this is how you disappear without going anywhere. Oh, this is how you disappear without going anywhere. Thank you. So keeping on the Tim Winton theme, this is another song that I wrote after reading a book of his called Breath. I'm sure it's available. In fact, I saw it on that shelf at the back yesterday when I was browsing. Many of you probably have read it. And I actually had word that it was going to be turned into a film. So this is one of these moments where I felt inspired to write a song anyway after reading it, but I also tried to pitch it for the film. I've done that a few times. You win some, you lose some. This one, I lost, but...
well, you didn't know, because it made it onto the latest album.
Yeah,
so no one loses, actually.
No one loses.
Apart from Tim Winton. That book, by the way, is suspiciously close to the table where the albums are. So if you wanted to, get the book and listen to the soundtrack that never was at the same time, this is the perfect opportunity. How's my sales pitch coming on?
Oh, yeah. You're really down pat with that.
Tim Winton's given me 10%.
So this is a song called Ordinary. Take a deep breath and dive down into the river. Wrap all your fingers round the roots of a tree. Count Mississippis till you see stars. Two restless boys in a country town, doing anything to keep from feeling ordinary. Got a cheap board and paddled out through open water, where you bargain with a god to stay alive. And the dance beneath your skin, oh, of sweet adrenaline, does everything to keep you from feeling ordinary. Waves throw you round and drag you under, but it was you who stole the air from my lungs. Fooled around with death, gambled my last breath, wanted you to see me as someone more than ordinary. Trace the shape of my life around the headland, catch a ride on a memory to the shore. Staring at the sun, I've finally begun to see the beauty in things ordinary. Staring at the sun, I've finally begun to see the beauty in things ordinary. Making the set list up as we go. Would you give me a B minor, please? Oh, we just did
I
it.
would gladly give you a B minor.
So, in reverse of the Muse, this is a song that I wrote after seeing a documentary, and it's by a brilliant American filmmaker called Ava DuVernay, and it's a documentary called 13th, and this is a song called Machine, also off the new record. I made the world a place easier for me. Money in my pockets over centuries. I'm a celebrated sinner with statues in the park. This world I made is harder the more your skin is dark. I covered all my tracks in books on history, justified my actions through anthropology. I chose what to remember and what we should forget. I covered all my tracks in your blood and sweat. This machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its own. In 1865, everyone is free, but I still get my labor complimentary. Who is working in the prisons now? Look and you will see that in 1865 I disguised slavery. This machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its own. But a crack has appeared. It keeps me up at night. There are whispers, there are shouts, and I fear the wolf will bite. I've been a bully and a sinner. Now I'm on the way out, for the world I made is harder the more your skin is dark. This machine runs on its own. 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 Thank you so much. We're going to do one more song, and then if anyone has any questions about film or TV or just anything, favourite food.
Capital of Outer Mongolia.
Things that you can deal with that one.
No, you can.
No.
There's probably a book here.
But thank you all for coming. We are playing a couple of other shows over the festival, across the road at Reardon Theatre tonight. I can't remember what time. And
Seven-ish?
Yep, something like that. And then Sunday night at the Island stage as well. And we also are on tour in Victoria after the festival. So we'll be in St Kilda in Melbourne and Wangaratta and Macedon and Archie's Creek Hotel. But come say hi after as well, and if you want a record, then of course we are very happy to sell you one of them too. But thanks so much to Joe and Dean at Blarney Books. Thank you very much for having us, and they've got a great program lined up, so thank you.
What song should we do?
I don't.
Let's do Blackwood. Yeah.
So I grew up a little country town in the southwest of Australia called Bridgetown, and by a river called the Blackwood, or Gorbilliup in the Bibbulmun Noongar tongue. And it's a theme that I often return to. So we're going to finish with that. This is a song called The Blackwood. I hope I know which way to go when it's time for me to head home. I hope I do not miss the turning, and I know which way to go. I hope I know when I should leave from these shores across the seas, back to where you wait for me. I hope I know when I should leave, like silt on the riverbank, like sunlight through the trees. I'm your fallen star returning, and never will I leave. A breath of mist upon your shoulder, a feather brush, I've forgotten the words. A feather brush upon your shoulder, a breath of mist upon your skin. I'll trade my blood for Blackwood waters, a song if you will carry me through this darkening land before us. I'll trade my blood for Blackwood tears, like silt on the riverbank, like sunlight through the trees. I'm your fallen star returning, and never will I leave.
Feather brush over your shoulder, a breath of mist upon your skin. I trade my blood for Blackwood water, I trade my blood for Blackwood tears.
Like silt on the riverbank, like sunlight through the trees. I'm your fallen star returning, and never will I. Hope I know which way to go when it's time for me to head home. I hope I do not miss the turning, and I know which way to go. I hope I know when I should leave from these shores across the seas, back to where you wait for me. I hope I know when I should leave. I hope I know when I should leave. I hope I know when I should leave. Thank you. Thank you to Lucas Drinkwater.
Emily Barker.
Thank you. So has anyone thought of any questions? Are you all shy? I always get shy. I'll take a seat in the comfy chair. Look at this chair. We can't waste them. But if there's also no questions, then, well, we might just have a rest there for a little while. I don't know if I can. No, I'm just going to take this out if I can. Could you mute the microphone for a sec, please, Dean? Whoop. All right, fire away if anyone has any. And if not, we'll just hang here for a while. Yes?
How big's your hometown in WA?
When I grew up, there were about 2,000 people. And now I think it has grown to about 5,000 actually. So, yeah, metropolis practically. Yeah.
So when you're growing up in a town that size,
Yeah.
I grew up in a town a fraction the size of that.
All right, yep.
I never thought that there was any way that a bloke growing up in a town like that could be a musician.
Yep.
Based on my own. So did you have similar thoughts to that when you were
Yeah, growing up.
and so forth? And what was it that got you to follow the career?
Yeah, well, a great festival happened in our town called Blues at Bridgetown, and that happened when I was about 13 years old, and I already had a real interest in music. Like my family never had a TV, so we used to listen to records all the time, and my mum plays a little bit of guitar, and all four of us kids would sit and do harmonies and sing. And then when the blues festival happened, suddenly all the teenagers wanted to learn instruments because they were offering a stage to perform on, and the high school got a bunch of equipment in, and my friends dared me to go and audition for the Year 9 band, and I sang a cappella It Must Have Been Love by Roxette, and got the job, and it sort of went from there. But there was so much I found growing up in a country town, so much support actually, and my parents were very supportive, and the community as well were just really got behind all the kids and really tried to encourage them and provide platforms to perform at. So I imagine it's a similar thing here. So I never really felt like it wasn't something I couldn't do, I suppose. And then I went off travelling around the world and kept on playing open mic nights, and one thing led to the other. But yeah, it was a very encouraging community, I would say. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, thank you. Was there another lady that had a question there? No, she's gone. Yeah.
When you're writing a song for a movie, obviously that's going to be in the foreground and be heard, but most of the music, I imagine, has got to be back and setting the mood. How do you sort of write something that's not really going to be heard but more felt?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it was amazing when I was writing the music for Hector, because like I mentioned, I'd already written so much, and the director had placed that in himself. But you really feel like some sort of god with music when you see the footage and how much you can manipulate it as a composer. And so I like you said, it's a real balance of, and it's a conversation that is with the director as well as to how much they want the music in the forefront, and a lot of the time we ended up stripping music out because he was quite minimalist in his approach, and wanted that space. And if you see the film at some point, you'll notice it's actually really powerful, also not having the music in there, because it holds attention. So, and he didn't want, I guess there's quite a spectrum with the types of films there are, and with Hollywood you want all the emotions all the time turned up to 11. But with this sort of independent art film, I suppose in some ways it was more of a minimal approach. So I wrote so much music for it, and then in some ways it was out of my hands as the sound designer and the director worked with it, sometimes quite crudely chopping my songs in places that, and it was interesting too, because some of the music I'd written specifically, following the footsteps of character or whatever, and then it ends up in a completely different spot. So it was I guess when we're doing our thing, we have creative control, but I was employed as a composer, so very much sort of was trying to understand the wishes of the director. Thank you. Anything else? The chairs are very comfortable, though, I have to say.
I'm happy here.
You're happy? Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
With it's when you're approached the first time to put a song for the Wallander thing,
Yeah.
you I guess you've got no idea how the business works, and how do you know what your song is worth when they say
Oh,
I'm going to take your song and put it on this show?
that's a very good point. You got to get a lawyer at that point. Yeah, and because I hadn't really realised what a big big deal it was, to be honest. And it was somebody who was at a party. Like I said, I didn't know who Kenneth Branagh was, or growing up in the country without a TV, and I had no idea, as an independent musician, how great that was as an opportunity for getting my music in front of so many people. It was sold to uh, somewhere between 15 and 20 countries all around the world on primetime TV, and so it was it was it was great. So yeah, you got to have a lawyer that you trust, and I had a manager as well, and between us we worked it all out, and um, yeah, well, absolutely, yeah, that is a part of it. You're just like, yes, this is great, go for it.
How we now live a life of luxury.
Reading classic stories. Yeah, thank you. Did you have one, Jack? Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It's Ulaanbaatar. Thanks to Classic Stories, you can get your copy here.
Oh, we've all learnt something today.
So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got a question.
Oh yeah. If anyone wants to chat, yeah, I've never shown any directors or scriptwriters. Yeah, I'd love to. So actually, in exciting news, Lucas and I are moving to Australia at the end of the year because we live in the UK. Yeah, we can't wait.
We'll gladly accept that ripple of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And whilst I've been here, been reaching out to a regional director and directors in particular who. So the question that the gentleman asked earlier, there's so much talent in regional towns, and there's a lot of focus on capital cities, and of course lots of people move there, but there's also so many people living in country towns that have got a lot going on. So I've sort of been trying to make a point of reaching out to people in the film industry that are in Western Australia in particular, and so hopefully that might sometime lead to some more film and television work. But you never really know when it's going to come in, when you're going to check your inbox and suddenly there's a offer to do some work, but nothing currently. So book me up. Ah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And especially, I think, since the pandemic, we're sort of used to doing a lot via Zoom, rather than, not that I did this, but flying into New York for a meeting or something. um, but yeah, I guess we're better equipped for something like that. And yeah, it's important, I suppose, to have a good relationship with the director and understand what they need, but that can all be communicated via the waves. The waves. You know what I mean? Yeah. 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 So prior to meeting Lucas, who is a exceptional recording engineer and producer, sits back in his chair.
Thank you.
um, I w- I was recording myself and learning on the fly actually, and I use Logic. And with the Hector film, I got a good budget for that, but I quickly realised that I would be spending it all on paying an engineer, to record all my ideas as I was trying to form them. So instead, use some of that budget to set myself up with a home studio so I could at least do all the demos myself, and layer things up and experiment and throw things in the bin and start again. And then strangely enough, for that film, I ended up using a lot of the demos rather than the work that I'd recorded in professional studios. There was, it's called demoitis. I'm sure you've heard of it. Sometimes, well, myself and the director, we were like, oh, we just prefer this version for whatever reason. Yeah, a bit raw, a bit rough around the edges, and actually, one time when I was working on the film score for The Keeping Room with Martin Phipps, and I'd written a vocal a cappella piece for that, and we recorded in the corridor of these really like shabby East London studios, but just huge reverb. And I was singing this song, the corridor was twice as long as this building, and he had microphones set up down the corridor, and I was singing as loud as I could. And this was the demo, and we got that and we loved it. And then he paid a fortune to record at Air Studios in London, which has a ceiling that raises up and down, and it's a pretty fancy studio, and they do a lot of film work there. So I went in and did the proper version, and actually we ended up using the shabby East London studio corridor version in the end. So yeah, thank you. Anyone else, or should we call it a day? A morning? Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks. Thank you, Lucas.
Yes. And if you wanna get some albums, Emily will be over there with CDs and records on the way out.